Welcome back to the 40% Better podcast, where we talk about all things leadership related to technology in some way, shape, or form. And we're going to be a little bit flexible around that today because Wolfgang has graciously offered to talk with you about his path. And it's not the conventional path that most people know. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So the question that I have to start with is, how did you get started in anything leadership wise or technology wise?
So the best way to start is I am from Germany originally, and I grew up there and went to school and university and. But I have always had one challenge, and that is because I have ADHD, I couldn't learn like normal people. I wasn't diagnosed early because back then that wasn't a thing, but it's a understanding in the aftermath. But because of that, I always struggled to find a place where to be. So I coincidentally ended up in the broadcast industry, in the media industry, because that was the only place where in Germany you could have a place where the degree of a university or of school or whatever didn't really matter. What mattered were your passion for it. And out of that, something grew that wasn't really something. And out of Germany came then the UK, where I moved to because I got an offer to do rock and roll concert touring. And in technology, any opportunity that could get me to grow was welcome. And moving to London, working in the music industry was really the kind of wow factor, because nobody cared about what degree you have, none of that.
Yeah.
All they cared about is that you care about getting the job done. And so very early on, I learned a concept that if I own my work, if I put the ownership on the table, things fall into place. So year after year, working in the concert touring industry, in which you rock in the morning, you set up the whole show, you're responsible as the video engineer to get everything up and running, make sure everything works, everything is tested, everything is, you sort of are the leading brain for the execution of the show in a technical fashion. And it requires every time that you know exactly where what is happening, inclusive the team that works with you. And so because I owned my work and owned my execution, it became natural to me to bring people along. And without really knowing, I constantly organized people, work to come on tour with me, to be around and give them opportunities to grow. But I never saw this as being a leader or being somebody that is actively looking after these people. It just so happened. And over the years, my career jumped further and further, that all of a sudden I was asked to take care of bigger and bigger bands and go on tour with bigger and bigger names. And before you knew, I spent most of my time in the US on working for a company in the US, providing that service. And sooner or later, they offered me to pay for the visa, make me move over to America and work out of the US as engineering head engineer for the big concert touring world.
Nice.
And so it's just technology and things, they always fall on my feet. I fall in the right place. And yeah, so that's how I really ended up in the technology world,
And leading.
and leading without really thinking about it, without really making it a concept, which is also interesting because I could only lead to a certain level back then. Yeah, there's a learning curve as a leader to grow into, and where do you go? What do you do? If leading is actually the cause of why you do what you do. That came later for me when 2016 I finished touring. At that point, I toured 2.5 years with the Rolling Stones around the world, literally doing every show
Wow.
the Stones did. And I met my wife, who was in Los Angeles, and it was clear for me that if I continued touring, relationship, marriage ain't working. I screwed one of them up on the way up there, so a second one wasn't on the list because the one thing you want to do is learn, right? You want to
Right.
learn from mistakes. So ending up as director of engineering in the music industry, planning and designing shows for big artists. And that's when I first started to realize that building teams, taking ownership of organizing the harmonistic environment of how people interact with each other to create a outcome that has to function night after night.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
that is really, yeah, it was really those early days, 2016 to till the pandemic, where I really was allowed to lead, but it came at one negative for me, and that was I was always the cleverest guy in the room. In other words,
Mm.
I couldn't really step back and create the bigger picture. Where do we go? Where do we take it? Because there was constantly something to take account for, manage. And it took a toll because you were never clear of where do you set your emphasis on leading or on fixing. Yeah? And so you do both, and it doesn't really work that well. And when the pandemic hit, it was literally the point where a huge weight fell off my shoulders because I was furloughed. And it felt like I had the golden handcuffs because by the end of the day, I was pretty unhappy in my position because I wasn't out there building. I wasn't out there in here building something else. It was like you were torn between which side and where to go and what do you do. And so I found myself in the pandemic having to isolate, taking my 2-year-old son to the beach and play and do things. And in those moments, you sit there and think, like, what are you going to do next? Because you've done pretty big things, been working with these biggest bands and biggest things in the world. And where do you go from here? What's your next move? And I had no idea because I didn't know what I should really, what I really had as a fascination. Yeah, before I had this idea of, yeah, I want to be the biggest engineer running the biggest shows. That was brilliant. Okay, been there, done that. What next? And there was really this kind of, God, shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but
Of course you can.
it was really, where'd you go from here? And a few months in, the company that furloughed me called me up and said, we have kept a certain amount of people who focused on building corporate workflows for meeting meetings on online, so you can continue having online meetings with large groups. And they asked me if I could lead that team, and I was like, ooh, not my expertise. And then I don't know why, but I said, you know what, guys, I'm okay leading a team, but only under one condition, and that is that I don't touch the gear. I will not go and be operating as well. If we can all agree that I can lead, but not be also the technical guy, then I'm happy to take that on. And that was the point where it clicked in my head when they said yes. And I actually went in to meet a new team under the premise in my head to understand, now you're here, you have to create something that's not in your hands. It's in their hands. And how do you get them to do what the bigger picture is? And my years of touring and dealing with people is extremely helpful, obviously, because it really set the tone to listen to what is going on. What does one need on a personal level? What does one need on a emotional level? What does one need to get where they need to go? And it was a very short period of time when we really made strides and started to build out that department and grew it, and business came in and we succeeded, and we built technology that wasn't around in the pandemic, and we had to build it. And it was, we made money instead of stagnating, trying to survive. We actually got capital expenditure approval for hundreds of thousands of dollars to build technology to improve the process of execution we started. And so it's really a really interesting movement that happened, because I was able to focus on sorting all these things out for other people to shine. Now we come to the point where it actually gets interesting, because that's when I realized that leadership is actually, as a whole, the thing that I find extremely fascinating and extremely attractive, because the kick I'm getting is to see other people succeed. Right? And that's when that's in short my path of how I got. And now I work for a integration company, and I'm allowed to lead a very large team of highly intelligent engineers building TV studios, broadcast environments, hotel lobbies, conference rooms, the greatest and most complex projects that have, so to speak, serial number one technology in it, where you really have to think outside the box to even be able to comprehend what the end client wants. It's a great experience to be able to have gone through all these iterations of doing these different things in life to end up at a point where it's very clear what my role is as a leader, to provide the bigger picture and make it understood for the team to comprehend the complexity and really go and see how can we individually contribute to that and be successful.
That sounds like so much fun. That sounds like just, because creativity is such a, like, one of the things that I loved about all my years doing software is we're taking something out of our imaginations that hasn't existed, and we're turning it into a reality, and clients enjoy it and have fun with it and ask us, oh, could you tweak this? So that building thing, I love that. when you think about, like, leadership in general, what are some of the interesting challenges you've had?
Um, the most interesting challenges is always the people aspect and the complexity of the people you're leading, because and we have to really distinguish between um, managing and leading, because quite often people think they're leaders, and by the end of the day they're only managing a group of individuals to execute something. And the way I distinguish between them is that as a manager, I'm capable to do every single job of the team that I'm managing. As a leader, I'm not. As a leader, I'm the person that distinguishes very clearly to say, I'm not able to do everybody's job, but I'm able to understand the bigger picture of what you do. And my job as a leader is to set the vision that is being given by a CEO or um, the leader I report to where the company wants to go. And my job is to translate that vision into a comprehensible context for the leadership of that team, like the managers. So the managers can understand where we are driving and can translate that into actionable items for the team to execute on to get us there. So that is, I think, the biggest challenge, and the thing that I find the most fascinating. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than people's minds and their ability to understand a mission completely different, each of them individual. If you take 10 people and tell 10 people what the mission is, they all will repeat a different outcome. So it's not easy to galvanize the group of people into a path in the right direction. So how do you get there? By really understanding the individuals themselves, and then find ways to reinterpret the message catered to their capabilities, catered to their way of understanding. So
Right.
you actually get to deliver the message of what is actually wanted. Or in many ways, it just requires to repeat the message numerous times until it becomes part of what you do. A lot of the challenges in team buildings, in building focal points of where you want to go, what you want to do, is actually down to um, really getting people to understand each other and how to harmonistically work together. What is the understanding of the other person? What can the other person understand, and what can I understand? And there comes a next level to it. We all have things we're good at, and we all have things we're not so good at. If you ask me, you put me in front of spreadsheets 3 days, and I'm starting to question my job and probably want to quit. Yeah. But if you put me in front of people that don't know what they want to do or where they want to go or how they want to do it, and I can encourage them and sell them on their capabilities to actually achieve something, then I'm excited. And the work is not work, it becomes joy and becomes happiness. So it's an understanding who in my team does what, who in my team is good at what. Not everybody likes spreadsheets, but there are some people that love that stuff. If I can get them to help me with that and can understand what is the things they don't like very much, and I can maybe cover some of that, then we're going to start getting into a place of very quickly um, understanding the drive
Somebody's ringing my doorbell. Give me a second. I got to go find out what's going on. Hey there.
Sorry to bother you.
What's
I
up?
don't know if the office called you about the wall fence tomorrow
No?
there. So tomorrow the guy's going to repair the fence that's falling apart in the
Okay,
back.
cool. Awesome.
I just want to let you know in case you hear the noise.
Yeah, no
Tomorrow
worries.
between 8 and 4.
Perfect.
Okay?
Cool. Thank you.
sir.
I appreciate it,
Happy
man.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, that section will cut out. Thank you.
We should still keep a comment about here was the fence man.
Here was the guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let him fix the fence. I'm happy about that. I'm loving where this is going, and the real focus on the people, because people are the ones that are doing all the work, right? That's kind of the key point here.
That is actually, and this is something I find in many situations, the thing that companies often oversee. They are so driven by the sales and by having to deliver financials that they misunderstand that the energy that is required to give to the team to execute got to be proportionally somewhere equal to the energy we give to sell products.
Right.
And that's quite frequently not the case.
Right.
But as a leader in a group or in a team, I can at least do my part of it by being available, being there, being approachable at any given time to help individuals in whatever situation they are. And sometimes to override what the rules are of the engagement in an organization and to say, yes, we have those rules, but I don't really care because you as a person have proven to be valuable to us above and beyond, and I will do what I can to support you in efforts that the company normally doesn't supply, but I will find ways to make things happen. That's how you can then set yourself up for success with that team without, and if you get in trouble for it, so be it. That is part of being the leader, to take the blame, or when the pressure comes down, not to hand it over and not to give it to the team and say, you work harder because I just got ripped.
Right.
It's not right. So it's really about understanding how that team works, what is required for that team, and do your best to provide an environment in which they can thrive. And not only thrive to achieve outcomes, but also thrive as a human being to grow to wherever they want to grow. And if they come to a point where they need to move on somewhere else, open the door, write the letter of recommendation, be the one that supports that, because we all know what goes around comes around.
Exactly. Yep. As you've been building teams, and scaling up, either when you're on the road or in the stuff that you're doing now, what are some of the challenges you run into? It's easy to have a team of 3, much harder when you've got 300. That's like, how do you?
So when you have a team of 3, I find it actually much harder than a team of 300.
Oh, okay.
Because a team of 3, you know very well, and you know what they can and what they can't do. A team of 300, you don't. You don't have that knowledge. You rely on another team of leaders that reports to you. And your trust into that team is your success. Your ability to have that team lead that organizational big picture. And the problems and challenges you come across is the biggest is really the understanding of ownership. And often you come into, like, I come in a position where I was asked to lead a large team, and a lot of the members in that team are with the company for much longer than I am. But in many iterations of previous leaders, they have been led by PowerPoint or have been led by these are the rules, and if you don't do it this way, you you get in trouble and you have to follow these guidelines. And I'm a big fan of guidelines and I'm a big fan of process, but I'm a far bigger fan of ownership. And ownership comes by encourage creative thinking. Because if I ask you to own the outcome, then I can also say there are rules and regulations, but the reality is you got to find a way to get there. And I trust you to get there. So how do I hand out this trust when somebody has had their fingers slapped many times for doing something that was outside of the process? That is one of the big challenges, to change people's personalities to understand that you now want an environment in which you allow them to be who they need to be or who they want to be. And then you realize that some of them have been under such straight, rigorous methodologies of executing that freedom is scary as hell. So the big teams all of a sudden don't function that well anymore because you took away the guardrails, but you can only achieve greater and bigger things if you take these guardrails away and you allow people to be. And that is when you then get into this understanding of how do you deal with neurodivergent and neurotypical people? Like myself with ADHD, I function only on the basic of outcome. This is the outcome I have to achieve. How do I get there? Leave me alone. I'll figure it out. Maybe I take a bit longer, but I'll get there. But I know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's a certain amount of people in the organization that can do that very well. And that can do that really with clarity. And some of the projects require that you think outside the box. Otherwise, they can't be successful. And it's the challenge to who do you find to put in what position when? And how do you understand who's got the capability to own a project? And if there's other departments involved, project management, name it, yeah, they all have to harmonistically, in symbiotic ways, execute together. If you have not learned how to communicate ownership, it's really tricky to get there. And it's a learning curve, and it's something that sometimes is required, that you have to force people to fight each other over a beer in the evening after the day is over and say, you guys got to figure this out. You can't just constantly blame each other for your own idiocracy. And it's these kind of, do you have team members that are willing to reflect on their behavior to grow? Then you're in a good spot to build something. If you get pushback on that, then it gets tricky to figure this out. Who's willing to step out of the comfort zone to really become a new version of themselves? Because that's what this is all about. And
Yeah. No, I like that. A lot of what you're talking about is, I think of as intrinsic motivation, and getting the trust within the team to have people tell you what their desire is and what they want to be working on, and then mapping that into what needs to be done.
Yeah.
And because definitely when you're doing what you want to be doing. I mean, your story about you were feeling torn because on the one hand you're leading, on the other hand you're also the technical expert, and you got to do this pretty ugly context switch. You weren't in the place that made you happy, and then you got to be in this intrinsically motivated place to where you're at right now, which totally makes sense. That's exactly the thing. The easy next question is when you think about team performance, like I'm assuming if you're building out the inside of the lobby of a hotel, there is a time frame attached to that. You can't take forever. And so how do you think about team performance and like getting stuff done within the time window that you've got, and how do you optimize that?
Well, so the reality is that everybody in an organization that performs that kind of work is not being confronted with, oh, tomorrow I have a project that has an end time delivery, right? It's like every project has an end point and you have to deliver towards that. So it's not so much that, it's more a question of, do you run a process-driven environment in which you have a lot of things to do on the way from A to B that maybe are necessary or maybe not? Or do you get them to say, these are the guidelines, do as much as you can so you can stay on track, but if it doesn't make sense, don't do it. And it's the question between freedom and logic, and the understanding that in every execution of a project, there's more than one person that has to take accountability. And the people that have to take accountability need to be aligned. This is like, you take any organization where the C-suite is pretty much nothing else than a group of people that have to take accountability for the outcome of the bigger picture of the organization. And the same is in every project, in everything you do, there's more than one person that has accountability. Maybe there's one leader, but under that leader, there is people with accountabilities of subsections that need to be executed. And it's down to finding out if these people are able to come together and achieve that. Companies are successful if the C-suite is in harmony and pushing the same message. Projects are successful if the team leading that project is in an emotional positive state with each other. That's really what this is. This is all about, how do you feel? And the biggest challenge on all these things is, today I feel fantastic and the team is amazing, and tomorrow my dog passed away and I'm down and I'm not there. And can I communicate this? Can I communicate this to the rest of the team, that they can catch what I'm not able to catch, that we are not missing? Is that happening more than twice or three times? Do they point fingers or ask, hey, what's going on? Can I help you? Why are you're not on top of your game? Is everything all right? Right? It's down to what kind of a base understanding does the team has on the human aspect of how do we interact with each other. In other words, social competence is the magic word that comes to mind, because it's really down to your ability to understand. In the concert touring world, in the rock and roll world, it's the one thing that makes and breaks a tour is your social capability of building environments or building whatever it is you do. You have a team of, let's say, the video team is 8 to 10 people, and you have another 10, 12 people in audio, and another 10, 12 people in lighting and backline, and name it. And all together you have set and staging and lifts and rigging. All together it's a 50 trucks full of gear that have to be rolled in and out of a venue in a very, very organized way. And the one thing that has to work is that everybody in the team knows their place and what to do when. It's the modern version of the circus. And whatever kind of personal infringements you might have with any of your team members, they have to be worked out because there's no space for it. You have no time to point fingers and be nasty. It doesn't get anywhere. The problem also is you're not going home to your family at the end of the day. You're going into a bus and you see the same guys you've just been working with all day. And yes, you crack open a couple of beers, you talk about, and if there were trouble or emotional things, you grab each other, you go to the side, you have a talk about it, you work it out. You learn to work on your own presentation, on your own way of being. It doesn't always work perfectly, but if you go through life with a little bit of understanding that you want to grow and achieve something, that's the main basis of what you need really to understand where to go, is being able to reflect, how do I come across? Did I say something that hurt somebody? And if so, have I got the balls to just stand up and say, hey, I'm sorry, I was mean to you today, and this problem can be solved. But it's not easy for people to do that. Or it's not easy to understand that you're actually in the wrong. But it requires a level of openness to see different. And because you travel around the world and you meet people in so many different countries and cultures, and you eat so much different food, and you get to know so many different minds, if that is all not interesting to you, then you're in the wrong job anyway. But because you travel around the world, you see all these different things, you also learn how to see the world from a different angle. And you learn how people tick different, but you also learn how valuable they are, because without them, nothing happens. And when the band goes out at night and starts the show and everything happens at a bang, the band is the instigator, but the doing is the hundreds of people in the background that made all of that work. And the hundreds of people is also the ones that built that hotel lobby or that TV station or that work in the warehouses to make sure that all these shipments are in the right place, or that all these things are being done correct. It's all down to a bigger ecosystem of minds having harmonistically to know of each other, to understand how do you achieve a goal.
Yeah, I like that. So where do you spend most of your time doing as you're leading these projects?
Well,
Like on a
I
day-to-day
mostly
basis?
work from home because I'm on conference call most days, and then I go and meet clients and teams in sporadic travels around the US and Europe. Yeah, so
Okay,
I mainly work out of this office here at home,
nice.
and yeah, but my day is full of conference calls, really, from the morning to the afternoon, and conversations. As a leader, you talk, you think, you listen, and you guide by presenting a vision. But you also have to have discussions. You have to hire people. We might have to let people go, or even the organization might have to reduce the size of people, and we are forced to reduce and have to identify which of the team members can we let go and which can we not, or which are the ones where it's really painful, which are the ones you should let go because they are not in the performing ranges you want them to be. And these situations then always also put always the question on the table, why are they not in the performing range they are? Is it perhaps me having not set the right tone? And it goes always in this reflectiveness of, have I done something to cause that actually? Am I part of that problem, why we are in that situation? And once you're in that situation, you have to act. You can't drain in that thought, but they are existing and they are becoming a valuable part of your thought process as a leader to really rethink, have I had anything to do with the situation we're in? And if so, what can I do to avoid that next time? If I'm even allowed to do so, right?
Yeah, you've talked about ownership multiple times, and I really, on a broad scale, and I really respect that perspective. And it always bothers me when I meet people that are in leadership positions who don't want to take responsibility and ownership for their team's happiness and performance, and like, why is this person not in, what am I doing wrong? How do I help them get to their place that they want to be high performing and very happy? Which even, as you said, maybe it's helping opening the door for them so they can go work for somebody else. That maybe this is just the wrong org for them. And
that's equally part of your job to identify that and have that conversation and say, hey, look, do you really think this is the right spot for you? Because you have a love for something else than this. And why, the amount of times I heard people complain about work is always rubbish or shit, and well, it's just what it is. And I've never gone through my life going through this is a case of a Mondays or any of that kind of descriptions for it is what it is, right? Where it's like, you don't like something, change it. It's in your hands. That is
right.
I always say there's only one life I have. That's the one I live. And it's my job to make the best out of it. If I screw it up, that's on me, on nobody else. I can blame everybody else and the world and the politics and whatever, but I'm the one that's living that life, nobody else.
Right.
I make the decision every day. I make the decision to get out of bed, and I make the decision to go to bed. And everything else that happens in the middle.
As you've been growing as a leader, what kind of unless you're like magic and you were born this way, what have been like the books, courses, training, frameworks, whatever that you've invested in to help yourself along the way?
5 years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned when I realized that my brain functions that differently, I was medicated and found ways to focus better. And with that, I was able to start reading. And I was finally starting to do audiobooks while I went on walks and had inspirational things like there's a book that's called Extreme Ownership.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I was listening to that, and it's something where like, yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. And I found it at first, because coming from Germany, and I have nothing to do with weapons or war or guns or anything. Is not my world.
Sure.
And hearing a leader out of the military speak about their missions in Iraq and then adapting the experience of what they had to go through into corporate environments, I was mesmerized by that and thought, wow, that is really, really interesting. And and everything made me think. So it's more like, because I all of a sudden had an understanding of why I tick different and what actually comes with all of that, I just really read loads and loads of books, or better, listened to them,
Mhm.
because it's easier for me. But mainly I really take on what I feel the most, because in all the doing I've done over the years, I've talked to people and so many times about how they can do better for themselves without ever thinking about being a leader, without ever, all my years in the rock and roll industry, there was numerous times where people told me, you will be one day big in management somewhere. And I thought, I don't know why you would think that, because it was so far away from me to even comprehend that would be an option, because there's a year-long uh, imposter syndrome that comes with all of that. And it is constantly that question, am I good enough for that? And when that clarity came in, and it was clear that there's a reason why I tick different, and how can I approach to change my brain's behavior, and how can I really find ways to do different, I put an awful lot of effort in to really try and become that person I would like to be, because I can.
Mhm.
And but it's tremendously hard work, and it sucks on all the way through, but it comes with huge rewards. you know
That's the way it works, though, right? Like, the
yeah,
big
I know.
reward always takes a lot of sucky work, you know?
It really is, and but it's worth doing it, and I will do it again, and I will continue to do it, because I'm really believing that this is
Right.
something where I have a ability to do a difference for people. I have the ability to help organizations um, with looking at the world from a different angle.
Right.
Because
Yeah. No, that
having lived in Germany and England and the US, and run my own companies as a freelancer and stuff like that, you understand different tax laws, different cultural differences, and but they all have one thing in common. We all are in an environment in which companies need to make money. We want to grow. We all want to have our fair share. And the question is, how do we all come together? And the people aspect is the one that has been too frequently overlooked in my eyes.
yeah, I would totally agree with that. Um, is AI having any impact on your world?
Oh yeah,
How
enormous.
so?
Um, because I have a brain that is very scattered.
Mhm.
The moment AI came out, and I could have, just see it this way. If I have an idea or a vision that how could I turn something around, I can't put it in 3 sentences and explain it, but I can talk about it for about a half an hour. So with AI, I can all of a sudden turn on the microphone and talk. And then I say, make some sense out of that gibberish. And all of a sudden, there's clarity that's been presented, because it's not that confusing. It's just that I don't have it in the right positions in my head, that it's chronologically presentable. But
Right.
the AI can understand that, because the AI makes out of chaos logic. That's what it's trained for. So it's heaven for a brain like mine, because I can really, the amount of times I find myself sitting and just talking to an AI platform, either Claude or ChatGPT or any of them, and just open the microphone and just speech to text, describe what's in my head, and just think out loud, and then say, try to bring logic in, or even, does that make sense in any way? And see what you get back. And then you get something back and you start again the conversation, because maybe it was misunderstood, and you clarify something. And the moment you clarify something, you clarify it for yourself. So, it's just like this. Sometimes it's a bit like a therapy session with your own mind, to understand how you tick, to better understand how you can drive yourself and potentially the world around you into a step forward. So AI is a very big thing in my world. It also is something in the organization we have. Well, not only in ours, in any organization, it's a very big interrupter. And I think our biggest challenge in the world we live in at the moment is that we are so used to that time passes by and things will work itself out. AI is much faster than anything we have ever experienced before. And AI is a tool. And a lot of people that use it thinking that is the way how it solves their problems or their challenges. It's not, because a fool with a tool is still a fool. Unless you learn how to really operate that tool, how you really understand what is that tool doing for you, and what do you get out of it when you use that tool, and what do you want to do to change things, and what is the limitation of that tool? When do you push that tool to a place where it's the wrong tool?
Yeah.
And because the AI has been shifted, there were times when ChatGPT was the best tool for writing, for rewriting. And then all of a sudden Claude came in, and Claude was first the best tool for coding. But now it's so much more accurate in writing and giving you feedback on my thought process, for example, that ChatGPT is not anywhere close to. And now Gemini 3 came in, and everybody is in arms, and it's a very, very interesting time we're allowed to live in by the end of the day. Again, it's see it with excitement, be open to it, embrace it. It's going to come, and if you like it or not, that's a problem you have to deal with.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, and I think a lot of people that have entrepreneurial capabilities but have the fear of trying would be blown away by what they actually could achieve if they would just give it a go. Because let's face it, you come from the software development side of things, and learning to code seemed to be a relic of the days, right? Unless you really want to understand how coding language works, so you can implement it with AI to better things. You don't need to know how to code. You need to know what the outcome is. So
Right.
we have always learned to be operating within tools to make something, but we have never operated in a tool with a very, very clear understanding of what the outcome is I'm after.
Right.
And the tool is more and more designed to really comprehend the big picture outcome of what you're trying to achieve, to then guide you there. Because since you're not coding, since you're not looking at the detail of what connects to what, why, you sort of swimming in many ways. Because if you don't have to put in a mind map of what connects to what, a flow of how what connects to what, and where's your centers of communication within an application. Yeah. If you don't really go and understand that from its concept, then you will always swim if you can't explain very clearly what you want the output of the software you're trying to create doing, because that all has to be created by a software, which is AI, without you knowing, which means you really have to have a very clear understanding that you look at the product and then reverse engineering and description for an AI to build it.
Right.
And that's not easy. That's actually very complicated, because most people design by building up. And there you're pretty much asked to build the house from the roof down.
Oh, that's so interesting because, okay, so I've built a lot of products over the year, right? And I've run teams and and I've been a product manager, and for me, I always see the end result first as, here's the business problem that I need to solve, right? Whatever it is, right? We have this business problem, we need to solve it. And then we need to make sure that in the solving, we have, first of all this like all these benefits, like things that make it easier for the end user, right? And then what are the features and functionality that make that happen, right? Like, I need to make sure that we have data privacy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. So, how do we do that? What's the, this particular class of user can only see this particular kind of data, and then, okay, what subsequently, I've got to be able to have a login for that user and tie those things together. And to me, that totally makes sense as an approach. And I think it's because when I started writing code, because I didn't go to school to learn write, I'm self-taught. The stuff that I started working on was always given to me as the idea for the end product. And so, like, here's the problem the customer has. Here's what somebody thinks is the way to get there. And that was just always the ecosystem was, start with the end in mind and then go backwards from there.
It's in all designs, of course. Even if you design a house, you start with an understanding of what it should be.
Exactly.
But, when you use AI to do something, and you are not a coder,
right,
then you have to rethink the approach, because you literally have to design the house by having in your mind every little aspect of individualism that needs to be set. Because when you write code, how many times in your time writing code did you discover that, oh no, I need to make a connection from here to here, not from here to there? And you actually realize in the building process, right? But since you're not building because you have a machine built for you, you have to learn how to communicate that logic. And how to identify, is that the right path or not? And so that's where you really have to completely rethink your approach on the product itself. And I mean, by the end of the day, what helps is learning to understand, how do you communicate with an AI, right? To say, one of the things I've started doing is that I ask one AI to write me a prompt that I use in a different AI. So I have a
Oh, that's
question.
interesting.
Instead of asking the question, I ask a AI to write me a prompt that has that question detailed out, so I can get a more detailed answer and use that prompt then in a different AI. So I can maneuver things around, and you'd be amazed what kind of outcomes you get of it, because all of a sudden you can say, don't forget to ask me questions about anything that might not be accurate in my question.
Yeah.
You get the dialogue going. The question about, is your thought process about this, this, and this, is that really correct? Because this and this connectivity might not make sense.
Right. Yeah. That's interesting detail. Yeah, I like that. I want to context switch for a moment here. For someone who's thinking about taking on leadership role, or they're new to it, what's some advice you'd give somebody?
Listen to your gut feeling. Listen to your emotions. One of the learning curves that I've had for myself is the best decisions I've made when I didn't thought about it. I just made them because they felt right. Every time I questioned my gut feeling, I failed. That's the one thing I can tell. It works if you feel it. If you think about it, you fail. I know it sounds, I've been told by my engineers before, I've never heard anybody talk so much about feelings, but feelings are everything. Feelings
Right.
are the core decision makers in our actions every day. They are driven by feelings. Our emotions create feelings. Our feelings make us do things. The way we feel today is so important in the decision making, how our day will go.
Right.
And feelings are everything. So if you're somebody that goes into leadership, trust that feeling. That's the one thing that will not let you down.
Right.
If you have gone through life making good decisions, they have mostly come by not thinking about it, because when we allow ourselves to question ourselves, we're on the path to nowhere.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, because I've certainly had a unusual career path myself, and it's always been it's been my emotions driving me. I really want to delve into that thing for some period of time.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's certainly been experiments I've tried that very quickly I was like, oh, wait a minute, this is not a long-term thing for me. And the weird thing is, like, when I started coding, I didn't think I was going to become a software engineer. Because I thought writing code for a living is way beyond my ability. But then all of a sudden my code started going into production. And then, like, I kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger projects and things to work on. And I was like, oh, I actually can do this stuff. Yeah. So that was super cool.
For me, very similar with the media broadcast side of things, right? I went to university, did one semester of geophysics because I had this idea to become a scientist for earthquakes and volcanism, and worked parallel in the master control room for a news TV station, doing satellite transmissions and signal flows. And the guy who run that master control room took a liking in me and explained me a lot of things and gave me opportunities. And before I knew, I worked more and more and more and had success, because it was something that I felt like, oh, I love this whole signal flow world. And
Yeah.
there was it's like somebody awakened a passion. And
Right.
that passion is all you need to be good at something. right? And
Yeah.
you got to love it. And before you know, you go from the next to the next, and you go to the next opportunity. And then 5, 10 years later, you look back and you say, "Oh, I've done so much stuff actually over these years, and I've done so many productions and so much failure out of which I learned, but I only learned because I like it. Yeah. Not,
Right.
and I went back at it because I want to do it better next time." So
Right.
it's the passion helps you to grow. That's, yeah.
I like it. This has been fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it, because your story is so different. And
Yeah, I was listening to some of the other podcasts yesterday, and thought, oh yeah, that will be a different conversation.
But at the same time, I think one of the big goals for this podcast is for people to be able to hear different possibilities that they didn't hear from their counselor at school, or that when they went to a presentation at some university, they didn't hear it there, right? And I think it's super valuable because it gives people more freedom in life, and that's a big thing, is being able to go, oh, I can go work doing rock and roll shows around the world and have a great career and have fun and advance, and then make what looks like a really big pivot in a completely different direction and pull it off. And that's, it's a possibility. It's so super cool. This has been awesome. Thank you so much.